Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds where I like to gather together all the things that I purchased over the past week and present it to you. And of course, I get it from my local record stores, but also like online retail, Amazon, eBay, and more. So a lot of different places, a lot of different things. I've got 11 CDs to run through with you this week and we'll do it here in just a bit. But before we start, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you're gonna stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with another episode of New Music Finds. All right, so kicking things off was kind of a major release in the world of metal. I'm talking about the new Kerry King, the guitarist from Slayer, his new album From Hell I Rise, debut solo album at that, but really meant as a continuation of the sound and style of Slayer, and that's exactly what this album is. Really great stuff. I have done a full review of it. I'm going to leave a link in the description, but just a quick overview on this. As I said, sounds like Slayer. It's a continuation of Slayer. You got a killer lineup. You got the vocalist from Death Angel, guitar player from Violence and Machine Head. You got the bass player from Hell Yeah. And you got drummer and guitarist from Slayer in here. So all the core elements that you need to make a killer metal album. And that's exactly what this is. Check it out. I highly recommend it. As I said, full review, check the link for that. Okay, next one that I've also done a full review for was this one. Guns N' Roses guitarist slash Orgy of the Damned. It's his second solo album. So a little distinction here because he has done Slash's Snake Pit, but that was a band. He has done Slash featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. That's a band. But this here being a solo album. And his last solo album that he did, which came out quite a number of years earlier, I think like 14 years or something since he did that one. That one there was also filled with guest vocalists, but it focused all on rock guest vocalists and rock sound. Whereas this one here has a variety of guest vocalists from country to pop to rock to everything in between, it seems like, even people I've never heard of. But all the music that's on it is blues covers. There's one original, but it is done in a blues style. It's an instrumental, and I've got to say that at least the people that are on it, the style that Slash plays, and I wouldn't know this was a Slash album if it didn't have his name on it. Kind of interesting that his name is nowhere on this part here. It's not, big out in the open. It doesn't say Slash. It just says Orgy of the Damned. And that really kind of sums it up because there's so many different guests that are on this that make up this album. It's really kind of hard to figure out who and what you're listening to other than the fact that it came out under Slash's name. All in all, though, it's an interesting album. If you are a fan of the blues, check it out. If you're a fan of covers albums or guest artists joining in on albums, it's great. But if you want a Guns N' Roses sounding rock album the way Slash does it, this is not it. Okay, next up is one of the most underrated glam metal bands making a killer comeback here. Babylon AD, Rome Wasn't Built in a Day, their fifth studio album. It's their first one in 7 years. 7 years ago in 2017, they put out Revolution Highway, which was a phenomenal return to form album, a comeback album in and of itself. This one here continues on with that, doing the same thing. So it really feels like they have settled into who they are. They're going to stay that way, unlike the album American Blitzkrieg from 2000, which really kind of shed all the glam metal, hard rock sound and was basically a punk sounding album, stripping it all away. But this stuff here, so good. Highly recommend this. This album, along with the Vain album that I talked about last week, Disintegrate Together, two killer albums from the glam metal era, still doing amazing stuff today. All right, next up, we got a side project from New Wave of Thrash, New Wave of American Thrash, New Wave of Traditional Thrash, forget what they're under, but we have Bat. So it's a side project from Municipal Waste bassist Ryan Waste. He's also doing vocals on this album, so that's kind of interesting. But if you basically like thrash metal from the 80s and you want some newer bands that are doing it killer, one, Municipal Waste, but two, Bat. You get some more of it. So while we wait for some new Municipal Waste, you can have Bat. Under the Crooked Claw, their second studio album. It's a trio of guys. As I said, Ryan Waste is on bass and vocals, but you got Nick Polis on guitar. He goes with the band DRI, Dirty Rotten Imbeciles, so you get a bit more of that punk metal vibe out of him, and you get Chris Charge on drums. Not sure where he comes from, but he's rounding out the lineup. All in all, just some really good, straight-ahead, classic-sounding thrash metal. All right, next up, one that I picked up was 90s alternative rockers, Collective Soul, Here to Eternity, their 30th anniversary since releasing their 1994 debut album on Atlantic Records. And this album here celebrates with a whopping 20 tracks on it. Now, when I first popped this on, I thought, wow, this is some real classic sounding stuff with the first two songs that are on here. But I have to say that the album goes through a lot of different styles and changes throughout, including the fifth song on here, Bob Dylan, Where Are You Today? Not exactly sure what that means because Bob Dylan's still kicking around, still recording, still putting out albums, still touring and so forth. But this is like a live acoustic song that falls right in the middle of it and kind of really breaks the flow. And then you get some other poppy stuff and things going throughout it. But very different styles throughout, maybe just trying to hit on all the different styles that they have ever done throughout their 30-year career. I don't know. But you get 20 songs. It's good. I've enjoyed it. I love it. I like Collective Soul. They're still sounding great today. So celebrate them with this new album. One that I wasn't expecting to enjoy as much, especially after hearing the new Slash album, which is all blues covers, is Little Feat, Sam's Place. So their 16th studio album and first in 12 years, also their first blues album. So that's the key in the tie-in there to the Slash. Featuring covers of classic blues songs. There's one original on here, Milkman, at least that kicks it off, and there are vocals and everything to it. There's only 9 songs on here, so 9 of these, they're all blues. 8 of them are covers, and the last one is a live song. But again, I'm glad they put the last one as the live one so they don't break up the flow of the album by having a live track in the middle of it. I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I did, whereas Slash's album is more straight ahead traditional blues, and there's not a lot of it that makes me think of Slash at all. This one here sounds like Little Feat, so they definitely took the songs and made them their own, and I really appreciate that. We also have the first time that longtime member Sam Clayton, who is their percussionist, who was joined the band back in 1972, is taking on lead vocals for the group. So there's a lot of firsts in this. First in 12 years, first blues album, first for Sam Clayton to be singing lead on. But yet, it all sounds like Little Feat. So very, very cool stuff. Bonnie Raitt also guests on it, making for a very good album. And then I picked up some stuff that is also new, but reissues. So new wave of British heavy metal band Blitzkrieg has reissued their debut album, A Time of Changes, which came out in 1985, but the material on it was written way earlier. They just never recorded a studio album at the time. Brian Ross, the frontman, who recorded a couple singles with them, including the song Blitzkrieg, that was later recorded and made famous by Metallica, would later join Satan, and then after that go back and reform Blitzkrieg, recording this album. So definitely cool stuff. Even though it's got the year of 1985, it's like 1981 era sounding material. Really good. Glad to get that back in print there. And then Stone Fury. This is their second studio album. And we've got Lenny Wolf from Kingdom Come on vocals and Bruce Gowdy on guitar, who would go on to Unruly Child and World Trade, among other projects that he did. Really good stuff. Been out of print forever. Can't say enough about this though. If you're a fan of Kingdom Come, even though this is more poppy sounding than that, the vocals of Lenny Wolf on here carry it all the way through. I happen to like it. It's very 80s. It's 1986 that this was released, so it's very 80s sounding rock, a little bit of pop thrown in with it, but I like it from start to finish. This is so good. Check out the opening track, Too Late, which Kingdom Come would record later on in their career, re-record. There's a number of tracks on here, Let Them Talk, just stuff that easily could have been from the Kingdom Come era. Okay, and wrapping things up, I picked up some other stuff. I've continued on picking up various Chicago releases with this one here, Hot Streets, one of their only albums that has a name on it as opposed to a number. I think this was actually the first time that they had released an album under a name and not a number. But this one here came out, it was late 70s. It definitely has a bit of a disco vibe to it, which is what caught my ear and why I decided to pick it up. But it's starting to lose that sound that I really liked that was developed in the early 80s. So I don't know how much further I'm going to go back, but we'll have to wait and see. It just depends on my mood. But I think I've kind of run the course of my Chicago stuff. You've seen stuff appear for the last 4 weeks in here. And then I'm sure I'll get back into them at some different time and you'll see me picking up some more stuff. But definitely picked up quite a bit of Chicago in recent weeks. And then having done an episode of basically Is This prog or not type stuff with Pete Pardo on his channel. One of the bands that we were talking about that came up a couple times, and I don't know if it was actually part of when aired or is the stuff we talked about offline, was a band called Roadmaster. And I only had one album by them, so I picked this one up. Actually, this was one I had on LP. So technically, I guess I had two because I had one on CD and one on LP, but I decided to get this on CD, a Rock Candy Records reissue of it, adding it on, and I love everything that Rock Candy Records does, so shout out to them for the amazing packaging and choices of albums that they reissue. But if you're not familiar with Roadmaster, and they seem to run under the radar even for hardcore prog people like Pete Pardo and the other guests that are on his channel, this stuff here is more in the vein of like Styx. It's definitely pump rock. It's got that bombastic stuff, sort of over the top sound like Styx had, and some of those other groups like Trillion, which is a really great one that ran under the radar too. But this band is definitely part of that era. And from the cover, you wouldn't immediately think that when you look at these guys. You might think more Aerosmith sounding, but they were in fact part of the progressive rock and subcategory of pump rock. But there you go. That's the stuff that I picked up. Those are the 11 CDs. I hope you guys enjoyed this, getting some new insight into what it is that I'm listening, and maybe helping you decide what you want to go pick up, or even learning that a couple great reissues like these two things are out there, because these ran under the radar for me until I did the What Just Dropped episode where I found both of those and then ordered them. So anyway, there you go. Hope you guys have a good rest of the week. Take care, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.